All right, everyone, Mitt Romney is going to be running for the Senate. It's like, you know, Mitt's like, hey, guess who's back? He comes busting in through the door and everyone's like, no, Mitt, no, please, leave us alone. Just stay out of politics. Haven't you had enough of being a loser? Like, he tries to run, 2008, tries to run. I think he was in third place, so John McCain becomes the nominee. John McCain goes off, la, la, la. He gets totally crushed. Like, Obama just wipes him off the face of the earth. Tea Party comes in, makes Obama look really unlovable, and he was. I mean, he's a desperate warmongering piece of crap. Romney says, okay, I'm going to try this again, and he comes in, and then he wages his campaign. This time he beats the Republicans, because, you know, he didn't really have anyone standing against him, other than Ron Paul, who gets totally shafted. I ended up voting for Ron Paul. Like, I'd had enough of Obama, too, but I'm not dumb enough to vote for Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney comes in, he gets the nomination, he wages one of the most boring and inept campaigns other than, you know, Hillary Clinton's campaign in modern history. John McCain, for all of his faults, other than choosing Sarah Palin, his campaign fundamentally was pretty normal. It's just he didn't visibly distance himself from Bush enough. We were in the middle of a recession and Obama happened to be 20 years younger. That's why he won. John McCain couldn't match that. There was no way he was going to win. Mitt Romney, by that point in Obama's presidency, could have won. He had to have bootlicking Karl Rove come out every night on Fox with his friggin' whiteboard to say, well, this is how Mitt Romney can win. He takes Ohio and then he gets Florida. And by the way, California magically votes for him too. See, here's my cooked poll. And he was totally wrong. And it's like, who cares if Mitt Romney wins anyway, because he's the same thing as Obama. He's basically, Mitt Romney is just a Mormon, white, you know, Republican version of Obama. They basically said the same thing. If you turned off the picture and just listened to them, and you didn't know which voice was which, you probably couldn't differentiate their platforms very much. And Obama danced around him anyway by the second debate. You remember killing Big Bird? You remember horses and bayonets? Yeah, Mitt, do you remember suggesting that we need more horses and bayonets? I'm not, you know, obviously that's not what he said, but it is what he intoned. Oh, you know, we need a much, much bigger military. You know, why? Yeah, who knows? And the thing is, he'll probably vote against any such proposal if Trump puts it forward, because he doesn't want Trump to look too pro-military. He doesn't want him to get more of the military vote. Like, if Mitt Romney wins, and there's like a 90% chance he does, because he's the Republican running in Arizona and happens to be a Mormon, I'm sure that's certainly helpful. There's no religious pandering here whatsoever. So he panders to the religious vote. He gets the, hey, I'm the next Joseph Smith vote. And he gets in there. What's he going to do? He's just going to be another McCain-style career politician. He's taking over for Hatch, for Orrin Hatch, he's like, you know, enough is enough. I'm getting out of it. I don't know how old Orrin Hatch is. Isn't he like 80 or some crazy number? I think he's older than Bernie. I'm sure that he's definitely an old man, but he's, I think, getting up there. Mitt Romney is going to spend the next term or two playing little senator. You know, he was Governor Mitt and candidate Mitt, and he's like, well, you know, I want another accolade. I want to be a little bit more famous. So when I die, maybe they'll put my bust in the Salt Lake City Park or something like that. That's what he really wants. He wants his bust in the park sort of thing. He wants his little... He doesn't get a presidential library, but maybe he can get a Mitt Romney wing of the library there in Salt Lake. That's what he's decided that he wants. Well, good for you, Mitt. Just don't screw up too bad. I don't have much hope for that. See, if I were in Arizona, I certainly wouldn't vote for him. He's a tool. He's just a warmongering, boring fucking tool. A total neocon, a corporate, you know, sucker. That's all he knows how to do. What did he do for a living before he got into politics at all? He flipped businesses. His business model is, hey, there's a failing business. I can get it for rock bottom prices. I slap a new coat of paint on it, fire everyone, hire a new manager. They hire a new staff. I turn around and sell the business. Now I've rebranded it. I gave it a new name and a new slogan. So basically a little bit of brand control, and he flips these businesses, sometimes making, you know, absolutely monstrous sums of money. Now, I don't, you know, fault him for that. He had a good business model. He certainly did well. He's a billionaire. So no fault on him for that, but, you know, doesn't exactly give you the experience necessary to run an economy. I prefer maybe Donald Trump's brand of billionaire. He actually had to fucking build something. He actually had to make something new. Think of a new brand. He didn't just get to rip off some old brand in a formulaic pattern in order to flip businesses. I think Shiva was using the example of meth clinics. Something, you know, he flipped meth clinics in order to make his money. It was a little bit more than that, but there were, I think, certain of the businesses that he flipped, I think now have totally failed, if I remember correctly. Like he just basically, he jettisons the business, he sells it off, makes his profit, and then, you know, I guess he probably writes off the original investment as a business expense. So he doesn't even have to pay much in the way of taxes. He's a total tax dodger as well. And I think he does offshoring too, so I don't even think he pays the U.S. Tax rate on most of the stuff that he holds. Yeah, he's got a car elevator and stuff. He's like, oh, you know, look at how rustic and wonderful it is with your little rain ponchos. You remember that? Like the last time he appeared during the election in 2012 against Obama. I think the last time I actually saw anything from him was weeks before the end of the election. It was that poncho incident where he was at the, I think, a racing track, and it was raining. And, you know, he has this really expensive, like a Gucci poncho or something. And he's like, oh, you know, look at how wonderful the design on your ponchos. You know, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was total cringe. And that's Mitt Romney. And then afterwards, he disappears for a couple days. It's traditional for a candidate for high office to disappear for a couple days when they lose, sometimes a couple years, like Al Gore. That was a reprieve. It was wonderful that he did that. He's a pro-censorship idiot. Like, who cares about the global warming shtick? You know, oh, basically, give me money and you know, it'll be wonderful. Things will magically go away if you pay me, you know, private jet man himself. That was great. Mitt Romney, a couple days later, someone takes a picture of him. He's pumping his own gas. The reason why that's funny is that he's so rich and out of touch and so inexperienced in anything the average person would care about that it is funny that he would pump his own gas. Because you would think of Mitt Romney, oh, he's got his $100,000 SUV all decked out with everything that he needs, like, you know, the wine cooler in the back. He's got all of his Mitt Romney rich person stuff, and he pretends to rough it. He's the sort of person, I've met people like this, so you know, don't think I don't have experience with it. He's the kind of person who strikes me as the kind of individual who would put on a flannel shirt. Now, it'd be something that they got from like Duluth Trading, or it wouldn't exactly be something they picked up in Kmart. They slap on the blue jeans and the flannel shirt and they go ATVing and they think that they're country boy. They're roughing it. They literally role play. I've seen people like this before. I've seen people, you know, seven-figure families from, you know, some tourist enclave, some tax haven, who have made absolutely morbid amounts of money. They come to like Vermont and they buy their mansion. They buy their 7 or 8 bedroom, you know, roughing it style home up in the mountains somewhere on 40, 50 acres of land. And they walk around and they say, well, I'm using a weed whacker. Aren't I a total American redneck? Ha ha, they'll drink a Budweiser and they think it's like hilarious. Meanwhile, their ATV, you know, how much that cost. They have their little bikes and everything else. Their home probably costs $2-3 million. The piece of land probably costs $2-3 million. They're roughing it. They're country people. They're just normal, everyday, rubish, rustic individuals. That's what Mitt Romney probably does. Go out in the woods and you see him, and he's got his camper. The camper's probably bigger than the average house. And he's like, wow, you know, I've got the gas stove. Wow, this is so authentic and backwoodsy. You know, he goes into his backyard that's probably, you know, 100 acres or something. He's got some trees out there. He thinks it's the middle of the woods. Like, he would come to the woods here, like, he would think that the woods behind my home, where basically any direction you walk in, you go a mile, you hit a road of some sort, or someone's property, he would think that that was like the middle of fucking nowhere. He'd probably get lost up in there and starve to death. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I have nothing but disrespect for Mitt Romney. He's a terrible person. He was a terrible candidate, allowed Obama to win, not that it really mattered much. The biggest sin for him was shafting Ron Paul right along with the RNC. Like, they scripted the results of their own, you know, bickering there at the convention. Literally, they scripted the votes. The result of the votes were scripted. Basically, as oh, unanimous consent to go forward with Mitt Romney as the candidate. And no, say, you know, half a dozen people who actually are pledged to Ron Paul. No, say 100 more people that, you know, are getting bussed around the venue over and over. They're not even allowed to be seated. Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. It was very, very funny to watch the proceedings at the time. It was an outrage, really. This was the Republican Party resisting change and then losing. Well, good riddance to the people like Mitt Romney, but now he's going to end up in the Senate. And he's going to be a thorn in the side of any form of progress. He's going to be an old guard Republican. On most issues, he's just a regular, boring, neocon, warmongering asshat. That's really what Mitt Romney stands for. I'm not surprised that in John McCain's state he's favored to do very, very well. It's almost to the point where a halfway decent reformist Democrat would probably be better than Mitt Romney to have in the Senate. Odd enough as though it makes, that's one Republican seat that they should hope that they lose. If you want real reform within the GOP, look, you got to think long-term strategy. The Democrats think using wedge issues is really, really great on a state-to-state midterm basis. Long-term, it's going to screw them because that sort of thing is declining in popularity. The GOP is thinking short-term. They're thinking with the little head right now. They're going to blow their load too quickly. They're thinking, oh, well, we need to keep the Senate, so we need Mitt Romney. You know, we'll need Mitt Romney in that seat. No, you don't. Long-term, you need to kick people like him out of the party, even if it means suffering a loss or two here and there. Work on some other race. Chip away at the Democrats somewhere where some sane, decent candidate is running. Forsake Mitt Romney. They won't because he's a big money player, though. You know, he can fund a bunch of other campaigns. He's almost as rich as Donald Trump. The dude's got billions of dollars. I think Trump is richer, at least on paper, like most of his wealth is tied up in properties that would have to be liquidated. They'd have to be sold off in order to gain access to the money, and I think you'd get taxed on that total, too. Now, it's probably a larger amount, but it's a little harder to gain access to it. Meanwhile, Romney's like, oh, yeah, I stash it in the Cayman Islands. You know, if somebody stashes all their money overseas, should that money not be considered foreign donations if they attempt to, you know, fund their own campaign to any degree? They shouldn't be able to do that. They should have to suck other people off if their money is partially foreign. Mitt Romney's, I bet most of it's in, like, Cyprus, Qatar. You know, the usual gangsters, the places where Clinton would keep her money. You know, some hole in the ground in Haiti that's guarded by 100 different people with machine guns. The drug den, it's basically where Clinton keeps her wealth tied up. It's interesting to watch, though. Somebody like Mitt Romney, who was considered at the time when he was running, he was considered really far right. Oh, look at this horrible racist conservative. Now all of a sudden he's sort of tolerable to people in the Democratic Party. Like, oh, yeah, ha ha ha, Mitt Romney said something about Trump, therefore we love Mitt Romney. They've done this with Bush. With George W. George W. kills 500,000 people. He gains the tolerance and quasi-respect to people on even the further left. For Mitt Romney, it'll be easy. All he ever did was screw people out of their jobs. As far as I know, he never started a war that killed 500,000 people. Yeah, so he's, you know, a cut above maybe a George W. And George W., now he's considered cute by Democrats. Like, oh, cute W. I remember when the Republican president was just dumb and not a tyrannical Hitler wannabe. You heard this stuff. I think Razorfist, he lives in Arizona. It'll be funny to see his continuous takes, I'm sure, on Mitt Romney's campaign. But the thing is, for that position, Mitt Romney could be totally inept and still win. There's really no way to stop him. Even if the Republican Party abandoned him, he'd probably still win. That's a problem. So it'll be Senator Romney. Oh yeah, it's going to be a wonderful time. I can't wait till he gets up in front of the Senate and speaks, makes a fool of himself, and still gets applause because he happens to be Mitt Romney. That's what's going to happen. He's going to probably try to stand in the way of Trump. He'll be another McConnell. He'll be with the McConnell people, trust me. Trump probably won't give him the light of day. But the thing is, he wouldn't ask Trump for help in an Arizona race. He would. If he was running in Massachusetts, maybe he would. In a state like Arizona, probably not. Because Arizona was more lukewarm in their support of Trump. He didn't get it by as big a margin there. You know, Rust Belt politicians, they want Trump to come over and campaign for them. Not so much in the southwestern states or in California. That's about all. Peace out.